Hello, and welcome back to Coin Lady channel. While I, like everyone else, am eager for the Ripple case to be resolved, I recently posted a video explaining why, despite our desire to see this matter resolved months ago, Judge Torres has yet to issue a ruling in the case. The fact that she hasn't done so yet isn't necessarily indicative of any evil intent. It's completely within the scope of possibility. However, the question of why there has been no resolution thus far persists. The reason why this is so lengthy is because Judge Torres is not known for writing lengthy opinions. In addition, the LBRY case finished significantly sooner than the Ripple case if you compare the two. How come? Let me tell you this, though. As stated at the opening of the movie, this is mostly due to the sheer volume of evidence that must be evaluated by the courts. Also, the same holds true. This is a headline from the world of cryptocurrencies, where Basic Deaton points out a major distinction between Ripple and LBRY disputes. Excuse me, I need to clarify something before we go any further. I have zero experience in either the law or finance. Nothing I say or write should be taken as recommendations to purchase or sell any particular security. I'm just a hobbyist who occasionally posts videos to YouTube regarding crypto-related subjects for kicks. That's okay. So, a few days ago, I posted the following to Twitter. I get that a lot of folks are mad right now. This SEC case that hurts XRP investors has been going on for nearly 2.5 years now. Still, I find it hard to believe that Judge Torres is corrupt. Simply because she hasn't made a decision. The schedule is reasonable. Moreover, I wasn't one of those people, even if some others had doubts. I wasn't joking at all. The word corrupt seemed to pop up everywhere I went after I used it. Even though I believe this to be a small segment of our community, I encounter it frequently. And so, someone named Mark in our group replied to me by saying, I don't think anybody truly is suggesting that she is herself corrupt. Only problem is, our government is rotten. So, she's a government employee. That's what I think the general consensus is. Sorry, Mark, but that's not quite right. So I did answer him, and I have nothing personal against him. But I only wanted to make a point. No, people are saying this about her in a very literal sense. Here's a screenshot I took and some of the responses I got to a video I posted on YouTube where I reiterated the point I made a few days ago. Yeah, we want the case to be over, but we're still operating within acceptable norms. And in that video, I was developing the idea further. There are also many who believe that corruption does exist in this country. There seems to be no proof. They make some claims, but I haven't seen any proof. I replied back to Mark and suggested him think about revising his previous statement. Here is a small selection of consecutive comments left under one of my videos on YouTube. There are a lot of folks who are talking crap about corruption involving Judge Torres. Yeah. So, if you disagree, please don't take it personally. To put it simply, I find it hard to take such a bold assertion seriously in the absence of evidence. So, here's a message someone sent me about my video. If it passes on Friday, then the judge must be completely crooked. The very next comment claims that the judge is being paid exclusively by the SEC. This can't be taking this long. So yet again, I can't find any supporting evidence. The outcome of the case is simply that people aren't satisfied. Bad motives follow naturally. The problem is that the reasoning doesn't hold water. Also, on June 23, I brought attention to something that former SEC attorney Mark Fagel had written. Here is a brief discussion meant to set the stage. 6 months is the typical wait time for a federal summary judgment ruling. So, this is quite normal. Also, this is not a simple scenario by any means. Welcome to the reality of an overburdened judicial system. Yes, many of us have read the tea leaves and predicted something sooner. Sherry, a member of the XRP community, wrote to say thanks. I've been arguing for a while that this case's timeline is par for the course. I've gone as far as to say that Torres's backlog of criminal cases must be dealt with first. It's like I'm talking to a brick wall. Sigh. You know what you're talking about, and you're pretty much always right, Attorney Fagel replied. Crypto Twitter does not approve of that at all. And this takes us to the question of why we are experiencing the delay that we are. Yet more valid arguments. As I mentioned at the beginning of the video, each situation is unique. They won't be identical, and that's okay. The Crypto Basics headline is as follows. Deaton emphasizes a key distinction between the Ripple case and LBRY litigation. Lawyer Deaton has pointed out a major distinction between the Ripple case and the LBRY case. John Deaton, founder of Crypto Law and an advocate of XRP, recently drew attention to the key distinctions between the two lawsuits. He made the comparison when a Ripple engineer mentioned parallels between the two cases' paths to a summary judgment ruling. Let me go ahead and open the post so you can see what transpired to bring us to this point. Mr. Huber, a member of the XRP community, seems to have doubts about the validity of the timeline we've been following in the SEC versus Ripple lawsuit. I don't want to give the wrong impression, but he seems to think that this whole thing should have wrapped up a long time ago, if I hear him correctly. I humbly disagree with such assessment. Absolutely nothing personal against him. Each of us has the right to a point of view. I guess I just have different opinions. So, he sent over this screenshot. If he was conducting a search, the results might be partially visible at the top of the screen. In what time does a judge rule? Then it abruptly stops. However, you may get the gist of his efforts by asking around about how long judges usually take to rule on applications for summary judgment. He asked how long it would take, and was told 1, 2, or 3 months. If that were the case here, I'd have to argue that we're well past due. We've strayed far beyond where we should have been by more than 100%. And a ruling was needed. Nevertheless, attorney Mark Siegel claims that this isn't really accurate. Again, an ex-SEC lawyer advises against conducting legal research via Google because of the risk of coming across an irrelevant fact from a personal injury law business, which would only be relevant in state court. Therefore, you are incorrect. Summary judgment motions in this particular federal district court take, on average, about 6 months, and Ripple is approaching 7 months, according to the most recent federal case study I examined, 2018. To reiterate, this is an average. Please keep in mind that it is possible, and even likely, that the actual value will be either lower or higher. In any case, the odds are extremely high. It's not inappropriate that we're little taller or longer than average. Yes. I agree with you once more. I just want this whole ordeal to end. I can relate to the annoyance individuals are experiencing, but it's normal to feel a little worn down by now. Solicitor General John Deaton answered to Attorney General Fogel. And according to Deaton, Congress wouldn't have instituted the 6 months limit if federal district courts were averaging 1 to 3 months for potentially dispositive petitions like summary judgment motions. And I understand what he means by that. If you take a particular amount of time, say 6 months, it will seem like a long time to most people. That information must be sent to Congress. That's as far back as my memory can go on this. There's a set of laws here, but I forget what they're called. As a result of being included on this list, you will receive additional notice. So, the idea is that judges should try not to be on the list. That's what he means by that, I see. That's about as much detail as I can recall, but it should give you the general idea. Conceptually. That's exactly what he's referring to, trust me. And then we have Neil Hartner, a senior staff software engineer at Ripple working on on-demand liquidity, to react here to Attorney Deaton. That means he has some background knowledge. How long did it take from the time motions were filed in the LBRY case until a ruling was made on summary judgment, asks Hartner, a Ripple employee. It took around 4.5 months, according to Attorney Fogel. There wasn't nearly as much paperwork in that case. That was the impression I got from the beginning of the video. Ripple staffer Hartner answered to him, there are way more moving parts in this case than there were in the LBRY case, implying that the judge was taking too long and speculating in that case. That was a big nope volume of material to review, and it was good news for the defendant. I agree with him that this is the only possible interpretation of the timing. The only thing I'd add is that, as things drag on, it's possible, and I don't think it's too far-fetched to assume, that the judge, after some time has passed, will be more likely to view the case as a performance and not simply rubber stamp one side or the other. Intriguingly profound ideas, indeed. But it's a fair assumption to make that either side would have benefited. The people who initially thought that this may be beneficial to libraries can now see that their initial assumptions were incorrect. As for prong 3, which has a two-part test, this was when Attorney Deaton stepped in and said the following: the filings in Ripple are 10x the filings in LBRY. Remember, also LBRY's counsel stipulated that prongs 1 and 2 were satisfied. Because of this, some argue that Howey is a 4-factor exam. And the relevance of the ripple effect to everyday business is widely debated. Since this is not an investment, factor 1 is not relevant, and neither is the question of consumptive intent. Therefore, this is a pretty special case indeed. Therefore, there is far less to think about for two main reasons. It took only 4.5 months because, as Attorney Deaton pointed out, there was much less evidence to examine in the LBRY case. Okay. Because of the LBRY, the judge was likely excused from conducting a thorough evaluation of the remaining elements of the Howey test. It's becoming increasingly clear that I've made a mistake. In the LBRY case, they recently conceded that point. Only one of the prongs needs attention. They should have been resisting with all their might against all those prongs. However, because of that, there was less to think about. Really, that's all there is to it. There is nothing else suspicious here that I can see. Claims of corruption and the like are made, but they are just that, claims. There is no more to it than that. This bone has been completely bared. Let me know now if you have something to offer. Yes, please show it to me. If you have evidence to back up your claims, that's one thing. Otherwise, I think it's just a symptom of irritation. I get it, I really do, but let's try to keep our feet on the ground here. I think what's most likely going to happen is that justice will be served. That is by no means a promise. If Judge Torres completely botches the case, you could have to take it to a higher court. However, even if Ripple loses, which is quite unlikely, this does not necessarily portend a terrible ending for XRP. In reality, looking back at what transpired in the LBRY case, LBRY lost, and it appears that we will be receiving a happy ending here, since the transcript from the court hearing in January is now available to the public. It just recently became known to the general population. This much is certain today. Deaton's delivery implied its authenticity, but now we have hard evidence. The judge made it clear that the verdict against the LBRY does not take into account secondary market activities. If something similar materializes in Ripple, even if it only does so during the remedies phase of the case, we should be fine. The question now is whether or not that is sufficient for relisting on exchanges. Yes, I certainly do. If not, that's a bit of a bummer. But, the judge's ruling in the LBRY case seems very clear. So that we can evaluate their efficacy in the solutions phase. But even so, I'm merely pointing out. Therefore, I do not consider anything negative, sinister, or whatever adjective you like. In the current SEC Ripple case, I don't think any of it is occurring. If you consider the entire process up to this point before Judge Torres, I honestly don't see how you could argue that the SEC has fared better than Ripple in all the pre-trial proceedings. In my opinion, the majority of verdicts and rulings are positive for Ripple. Thus, in many cases, XRP holders. That's exactly how I see it, too. For nearly 2.5 years, I've been keeping tabs on this annoying saga. To a greater extent than the SEC, I believe Ripple was successful in this case. The good news is that things are winding down nonetheless. I won't claim to know when it will end, but I expect it will happen eventually. When asked about the typical days for filings in this matter, Attorney Hogan mentioned that they typically occur on Thursdays and Fridays. More often than not, yes. If you're wondering when it might happen, consider the following. So far, no attorney's predictions have come true, and I don't have a date for you either. The judge has stated that his usual filing days are Thursdays and Fridays, so if you want to anticipate any news or unusual price movement on those days, you should check your phone, computer, or tablet first thing in the morning on those days. Let me simply put it that way. The term financial advisor is not one that I use. Nothing I say or write should be used as a basis for making financial decisions. And please like and subscribe my channel. See you later, bye.